Hi everyone, welcome to the Witching Week. Today is episode number 59. Today we're going to be talking Yule, winter celebrations, the Winter Solstice. We're going to be looking at magical things that you can do to mark the end of the year and the beginning of the year. So lots to cover today. I really hope you enjoy this episode. So grab a cup of tea, get comfy, put some incense on, and we'll look at the Witching Week. Hi witches, welcome back. Thank you for watching. If you don't know who I am, I'm known as Wren. I am the cemetery witch. I live on a cemetery in England, and each week we get together to talk about the news and events and witchy things of the past week and the week ahead. So welcome to any new subscribers in the last 3 weeks, and of course welcome to returning watchers. I'm really sorry that I've not been here for a while. Some of you know, some of you don't, but basically I had COVID. So yeah, I contracted COVID and it absolutely knocked me for six. My husband was really poorly as well, but I don't have a very good immune system. I have a weakened immune system. I'm immunocompromised, and I was put in a position where I had no control and no realization, and let's just say that I contracted it rather than caught it. So really tough few weeks. For the first week, I don't remember about the first sort of 4 or 5 days, and for the first week I was just completely laid up. I'm not somebody who's very good at going to bed, so the sofa was my place of choice. My husband joined me there. He was there for nearly a week, which is absolutely unheard of. Even when he had COVID the first time and ended up with a heart condition as a result of that, he managed about 2 days on the sofa. But we were so ill, and even into the second week, I couldn't really do anything. I'm now into the third week, and I am still feeling the after effects. So obviously the virus sort of feeling has gone. I did end up on antivirals, so I was super poorly, and I just could not make these videos. I'm really sorry. I'm now struggling again with my heart issues. As you know, I've got an as yet undiagnosed, untreated heart condition. We think we know what it is, but I have now been set back to where I was in the summer. So even just light pottering around in my house is causing me no end of issues, and the fatigue that's coming as a result of that and from having the COVID is just absolutely knocking me out. So at the moment I'm having a good day every now and then inevitably I want to get some things done on a good day, and then I knock myself out again for a few more days. So all of my winter plans and events that I did have in the diary that I'd been looking forward to for weeks, that I'd kind of saved my energy for, we didn't manage to go to. So there was not a lot of point in me doing these videos sort of in the midst of me having COVID, because there was literally nothing for me to say, and I was really looking forward to those, but they rolled around and we were just too poorly. Even once I was sort of past the contagious bit, I did have to have an extra week of isolation. That was partly obviously so that I didn't infect others, but also my doctor didn't want me picking up any more bugs, because I had a virus that I just got over a few days before I caught COVID. So I'm still really struggling. I'm up, I've got makeup on, I look okay, but I am really struggling. And I did do some nice things on yesterday, actually Thursday, and I'm really sort of paying the price for that. So I'm going to do this video and then it's going to have to be going back to resting. So how are you all? Have you managed to avoid it? I hope you're all doing okay. I hope you're not getting too caught up in this silly season, as I call it, this busy time of year that we all sort of have a bit of a love-hate relationship with. I think those of us with chronic illness find it really difficult, because there's just not enough energy to do everything. So it's really good to be organised, isn't it, and get things done a bit earlier on in the year. So I've managed to get all my stuff sort of done, so that now I've got some time to just sort of kick back before the week of the big events, so that I've got energy for my family and the kids and stuff. So yeah, yeah, I'm exhausted. So I'm so glad to be here though. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I hope you've had a good few weeks. I hope it's been kind to you. Yesterday I went to the house of Lucy M. Boston. I thought I'd picked up the book, but I haven't. Basically, she wrote The Children of Green Know, which is a magical children's book. It's possibly my best friend's most favourite book ever, and I'd heard of The Children of Green Know. I haven't seen the series that they made it to way back then, and I hadn't actually read the books, but I had heard the name. I think it's a fairly sort of famous book. A lot of people our age would know it. I've never been, but we went to visit Lucy M. Boston's house. So her daughter-in-law lives there now. I'm guessing, and I don't want to offend anyone here, but I'm guessing her daughter-in-law is in her 70s or 80s. So this gives you an indication of sort of how long ago we're talking about. And she lives in one of two continuously lived-in homes in Britain. So their home has a Norman part to it. It's over 900 years old in places. There's been various works done to the house. There's been a big fire as well. Things have chopped and changed, but there is this sort of core of, some of it's stone, some of it is a mixture of sort of sand, grit, and I think sort of water. I don't know whether there's sort of some element of clay in there, but anyway, very, very old building. Absolutely fascinating, very sort of British, sort of semi-aristocratic, eccentric sort of home and people. So absolutely fabulous. The author also was a patchwork artist, so we saw some of her patchworks, which she was working on way into her late 80s. So the last one we saw she made when she was 86, and it was absolutely incredible, and the others were incredible as well. And it was nice to see the progression between the first patchwork and the last one. So yeah, she didn't just weave her magic through her words, but also through her sewing. So I bought the book. It's a children's book. The reading age is about 6 to 8 if you're being read to, and I think about 8 to 9 if you're reading the book yourself. To be fair, that's about where my reading age is at these days, what with all my cognitive issues. I can read it, but my problem is actually getting the information to sink in. So I bought this book and some of the others that followed, and I've started reading it, and I must admit I am having to really concentrate and to sort of reread over paragraphs, but I have been absolutely just caught by the sort of the charmingness of this story and how enchanting it is. And I can picture the rooms that Lucy M. Boston is describing, because I've been to the house where she wrote the book and where she drew a lot of her inspiration from for the stories. So it was really, really chuffed to do that with my best friend yesterday and my best friend's partner. They came to stay, so I just kind of got myself sorted. They came over in the afternoon. We had a Christmas lunch, a Yule lunch, because we won't be seeing them now until after. And it was really, really lovely. I had one day where I felt really, really normal. And then yesterday I really struggled, but we went to this house. My friend drove, bless her, thank you very much. And we just pottered around this little house. And then we came home and I had a long nap on the sofa. So yeah, I'm feeling very, very festive. My tree is up. I wouldn't normally put my tree up this early. As you all know, when I've spoken about Yule before and Christmas before, I like to put it up as late as possible. It's just kind of what we've done in our family, because my mum's birthday is the 14th of December. Also, I don't like to do it too close to the event because I feel like it kind of loses its magic. However, this year we put the tree up early, in time for my friends to come for a Yule dinner. And I have to say that despite missing out on sort of a few things I had planned, and I don't plan many things in advance, I have to say I'm feeling very, very festive. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the coming weeks, and I'm just going to absolutely make the best of it. So yeah, this year's been a bit of an eye-opener for me, and I'm really going to just make the most of every single moment. So yeah, so we did that yesterday. That was absolutely fabulous. We were going to go to the Frost Fair in Glastonbury, which is held on the last weekend of November. We didn't manage to do that. We'd had COVID over a week at this point. We were still infectious and we were just absolutely dead on our feet. So we didn't do that. When I used to go many years ago, and we're talking probably 15, maybe plus years ago, there used to be a few stalls from sort of the bottom of the high street, winding sort of like not even halfway up the high street, and they'd be dotted about, and there would be, I would say it would just be like a busy shopping day with maybe a few extra people. This year, I don't know if you've seen the photographs, I'll see if I can find one online, but it was absolutely rammed. You could not move by the looks of it. There were so many people. I didn't realise it had become such a big event. This year apparently was the best one they'd ever had. The weather was glorious. It was very cold, but it was frosty and clear and sunny. They had the Abbey open for free. They had music and food and Father Christmas. So much bigger than the last time that I've been to the Frost Fair, but it looked absolutely fabulous. So it's something to consider next year. I was going to tell you all about it the week before and mention to you that it was on, but obviously I was not here. And I was going to be telling you sort of about it afterwards and showing you our experience. I was going to film it. I must say, looking at it and how busy it was, I was really disappointed to miss out, but actually having seen just how busy it was and how big it's got, and considering how poorly I still felt, I got over my disappointment and my sadness, because I was feeling really sad. I missed out on seeing my parents as well before my husband started his new job, and it's not often we get to sort of meet with others. We're busy with the kids, we're busy running a household, trying to make time for each other, and so I was really sad for a few weeks, really sad. But it was really busy, but it looked fabulous. So if you went to that, I hope you had a great time. I will remind you next year, if we're still doing the Witching Week next year, which I'm not planning on not doing. But yeah, I'm sorry I've not been around to let you know what's going on in some of our places in the UK. So we've had some snow in the last couple of weeks. So it was the last day of November, 30th of November, and that's very unusual for us, really. We occasionally get snow in December in the UK. Scotland kind of doesn't count because Scotland gets snow a lot, but in terms of the rest of the UK, it's very hit and miss. I thought I would get more snow living in the Midlands than in the south. I grew up in the south. However, there's been a bit of a sort of a reversal since I've lived up here. And the southwest seems to be getting it a lot. But anyway, we had I'd say a couple of inches maybe here, and it looked absolutely beautiful. We were expecting heavy rain overnight. My mum had said that she'd heard that the Midlands would get snow, but the Midlands is such a large area. And I'd been looking at the Met Office app. The Met Office is where all the other apps and other, like newsreaders and people get their weather from. It's the main office in the UK that deals with weather, and they said it was going to be heavy rain all night. So I went to sleep, not feeling excited, not feeling like, ooh, there's going to be snow tomorrow, absolutely relying on their information. It is very hard to predict snow apparently, but anyway, we woke up to a winter wonderland, which is absolutely beautiful. However, it did only last like one day, one night. The next morning we woke up and it had all gone. It only takes a bit of rain for it to all just wash away, and I suppose at this time of year it's generally not really cold enough for it to sort of stick around. So we've been getting up to sort of 6, 7, 8 degrees at night. We have had some sort of minus weather. It has been cold in the last couple of weeks. However, we've moved back into sort of mild weather again. And so, yeah, it was gone like pretty much immediately. But I was very excited. I did actually wake up about 3 o'clock in the morning and noticed that our room seemed quite bright, and we don't sleep with any curtains or blinds closed, so I could see out the window and I could see that it was all white, and so it was quite hard for me to get back to sleep because I do get really, really excited about snow. We're like that in our family, we're all like that. So yeah, that was really, really nice. That was a lovely start to winter, which meteorologically speaking happens on the 1st of December and runs through to the last day of February. This is how the year is broken up into obviously 4 3-month chunks. So this is winter, but astronomically the winter solstice is considered winter as well. So this year that's Friday the 22nd of December at 3:27 a.m. UK time. And then it's, you know, it's kind of personal opinion, isn't it, when winter starts? So that will be very different, I would suggest, for someone in the southwest of England to, you know, what it is for me up here in the Midlands. And also I would suggest that it changes from year to year depending on what type of weather we have. So yes, there are these like fixed parameters that say this is the season, but really, you know, it's all about looking out your window, isn't it, and seeing what's happening around you. Because we had unusually warm weather in October. We had 23, sort of 26 degrees when my husband and I went to Glastonbury for our anniversary. And I just imagine if that weather happened in December and we had weather that was that warm, you know, you would kind of argue that yes, we're in the season of winter, but that we weren't having a winter. So yeah, I think it's just one of those things that it's a bit fluid, isn't it, in some ways, and I like that. When do you consider winter to be? When does winter hit you wherever you are? For us, January, February and March are very, very cold. And like I said before, like March, I kind of call that a sort of a swing month, a swing sort of season, swing month, because you know, it can be warm in March. Like we've had t-shirt weather before now in March where people have been burnt, where we've just had sort of unusual, sort of out of season weather. But then equally we can have snow in March. So it's a bit of an odd one really. Our weather in the UK is odd, and obviously it's changing all the time because of climate change. So yeah, I suppose I feel like we're in winter now, particularly because we had snow the day before winter was due to start, meteorologically speaking. But yeah, I like the mysterious quality of these things, of not being able to sort of truly say when that is. So yeah, talking of the solstice, so Friday the 22nd of December, I've written down 3:17, but I think it's 3:27 a.m. It's the tipping point, isn't it? So we have the shortest day and the longest night, but it's a tipping point because after this we are going to gain some extra daylight. So this doesn't happen until around about the 25th or the 26th of December, when the sun is born. So we have a period of standstill. We get to the winter solstice. We have the shortest day, the smallest amount of daylight, because one of the Earth's poles is tipped away from the sun. So obviously it's the opposite when you're in the southern hemisphere. Our Australian, for example, brothers and sisters will be celebrating the summer solstice. And then we have this period of standstill for a few days. So in Northern Europe, they used to believe that there was a big wheel, and that this wheel, this fiery wheel, stopped rolling, it stopped moving, and this is where we get the word Yule from. And so yeah, there's this period of standstill, and most pagans will include observing or greeting or celebrating the sun or the return of the sun in some way in their celebrations. For me, I like to observe the sun on the morning of the shortest day, so the winter solstice, and I like to observe the sun the morning after, because the sun has returned. Sorry, I meant to do that on returned, not on sun, but the sun has returned after that longest night. So even though we don't pick up with the hours of daylight until around about the 25th or the 26th, I'll have to get the date as we get closer to the time for you. I normally give you that. Although that's not happened yet, it's kind of symbolic, isn't it? So like myself and many pagans like to do that. There is no right or wrong with these things. This is the message that I really kind of want to get through to you guys, that you can celebrate this or not celebrate this, as the case might be, however you would like to do that. I think of all the winter activities that we know of for this time of year. Those are all good ways to celebrate the solstice. And then obviously you can chuck in, you know, any sort of traditional things that you can think of. When I think of the winter solstice, I think of the concept of hygge. So many of you will know what that is. It's a sort of Scandinavian, I think it's Scandinavian, it might be Danish, but this concept of like warm and snuggly and sort of hibernation. So anything that fits into those parameters, I think, is a good way to celebrate the winter solstice. Many people have a big seasonal dinner. I like to do that. I think of baking, snuggling, watching TV, movies, winter walks, bringing the outside in, so bringing those evergreens in to decorate the home. And then many people take on acts of service or giving to charity or working for charities. So obviously, like the most ideal charities at this time of year to give your time and money and energy to are things like homelessness charities and food banks, you know, just sort of winter related things almost. And then obviously you can celebrate the sun in various ways. That might be getting up to greet it. That might be just, you know, a nod to it, a respectful wave or a hello, or you could write a poem or some verse. You could make orange slices, decorations using those. So normally that involves cooking them in the oven on a really, really low heat for a really long time. I find it a bit hit and miss. I have tried this and it's much nicer though than trying to dry dandelions. I tried to dry dandelions in the oven and they had the most disgusting smell and I felt ill for about 2 days. I felt really sick, and that was for a recipe, and I should have just picked them on a day when it was warm, sunny, dry, but which is the ideal to pick anything when you're foraging. But I had read that you could dry them out on a low heat in the oven, and I tried that and it was disgusting. At least with creating orange slices to represent the sun, they smell absolutely beautiful. So yeah, just a few ideas for you there. Another idea is a Christmas card ritual, which I had made into a video many moons ago. It's one of my earlier videos, so it's a bit embarrassing, but I'll just basically run through now with you. But it's basically the idea of hanging on to your Yule and Christmas cards, and then having a fire. So you could do this inside if you're lucky enough to have fireplaces, or you could do this outside. If you can't do that, then you could do this with a small cauldron, but I would suggest transferring the names, and I'll explain that in a minute. But you could do it with a candle and a cauldron. But basically you take your Christmas cards, you take time to wish each recipient of the person who sent the card. You take time to wish them, you know, happiness, love, fertility, joy, blessings, good health, whatever it is you want to incorporate into your ritual. And you wish them good things for the next year ahead, and then you place that into the fire and burn it. So if you wanted to do this with a candle and a small fireproof dish or cauldron, then I would suggest, rather than burning the card, which might be a bit too big to pop in and you might end up with some sort of fiery incident, which we want to avoid, you could transfer just a name onto a small piece of paper and burn that. And also, if you are not comfortable with burning your cards because you feel like it's a waste, what you could do is do the same, transfer the names onto a small piece of paper, and then you could use, so many people use their Yule and Christmas cards to make tags. So this is an ideal one because you can just cut around the hair, and he makes an absolutely gorgeous tag for Christmas presents, your presents for next year. So however you would like to do this, it's just a really nice little ritual, a little sort of, you know, after your close of year or even in the new year tradition, and you just take some time to send some good wishes to the people that have sent you good wishes. Obviously you can add names to the list. You don't have to, limit it to the people that have sent you Christmas cards. This isn't well, you sent me a Christmas card, so I'm going to give you something nice back, but I'm not going to bother with anyone else type thing. But most people end up with cards from their loved ones, and it's just a really nice symbolic thing to do, where you are literally putting the cards into the fire, and then that also just, clears away the energy of Yule and Christmas as you step into the new year. So it's just one of those nice little things that's just, it kind of completes the circle almost, doesn't it, rather than put them in the recycling bin. But again, if you want to recycle them, then just do that. So I just thought that's a really, really nice idea, something I like to do when I can. Obviously January is still cold enough that you have fires burning and things like that. For some people in some houses it's actually warm enough to go outside, it's warmer to have a fire outside and sit around the fire outside than it actually is to be inside. So it could just give you a nice activity in the new year. So talking of New Year's traditions and rituals, I thought I'd give you some ideas. I have planned a video for Yule. The idea of this was I was going to release it like 3 weeks ago, because that would give you plenty of time to prepare, but obviously COVID hit me. So I'm hoping to record it after this video and then get it up to you soon so that you can crack on with planning your Yule. But it might just be one of those things where it goes up for next year. And my apologies if, I don't manage to get that done in time. So it was a bit of a spanner in the works, contracting COVID. It was, it wasn't in the plan, but then it never is it? So New Year's traditions. So one idea is to open all the doors and windows just before midnight, so maybe 10-15 minutes before midnight, and let the cool air come in and cleanse and let all the stagnant energy out. So make your home feel really fresh and clean just before stepping over the threshold into the new calendar year. Of course, you could do this at any time. If you strictly abide to Samhain being the end/beginning of the years, the end and beginning of the Celtic year, then obviously do this ritual then. There's no right or wrong, but a lot of people do, even if they're pagan, follow the calendar year. That's what they've been brought up with. That's what makes a lot of sense to them. You could do it twice a year, couldn't you? You could do it around about Samhain, and you could do it for the calendar year as well. The wheel is always turning. Each day we're a step along the wheel to an everlasting cycle. So it doesn't really matter when you do these things. You could do this on the 29th of December if you really wanted to. If you know that you're not going to be up just before the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve, then it doesn't matter. Do it some other time. You can turn absolutely any act, any chore, any movement into something magical if you just take a bit of time to do some planning and think it through and then act it out intentionally. So easy to just turn everyday activities into something magical, or to plan something really simple and make it into something magical. So obviously we've just spoken about the burning of the Christmas cards, Yule cards, for wishing other people love, joy, peace. I like to do a year ahead tarot reading. So again, just pick a moment that's suitable for you. You could do this, 1st of January, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. You might not want to go too far into January before you do this, or you might want to just do it at the end of December. You could do it now. You could take a look ahead before things get too, potty, too bonkers. Just take a moment, and I like to pick 13 cards for each of the 12 months ahead. So if I did the reading now, that would obviously start January, would be card 1, and then the 13th card is like an overall theme for the year. You could pick 2 cards for the overall theme for the year. You could have an overall theme for the first 6 months, and you could have a card for the latter 6 months of next year. So you could do this however you want. Obviously you could get to February and remember that you haven't done a year ahead spread, and you could do it in February, starting with the month of March. So all this stuff can be tweaked and honed to you and your situation and your beliefs and your traditions, and whether your memory is any good or not. What else? You could blow cinnamon through the front door. You could do this at midnight for the, or a minute past, for prosperity and success and abundance. A lot of people do this on the first day of the month. Some people just do this once a year. Obviously, some people don't do this at all. These are just ideas for you. First fitting. Now, this is something that we actually used to do. My family used to do when we were children. Quite often we'd have New Year's Eve with our cousins. And apparently it dates back to the invading Vikings, the 8th and 9th century. I don't know how true that is. And the first foot is the first person to step over the threshold in the new year into a house. So when we used to have our New Year's Eve celebrations, we used to do this just after the clock struck midnight. So it was considered good luck to have a dark-haired man who was hopefully tall as well. Light-haired or red-haired men or women or children were considered not to be as lucky and could perhaps even bring you misfortune. So ideally it had to be a tall, dark-haired man. So that used to fall on my uncle, who was very dark hair, and he would take the first step into our house in the new year, and he would bring items in with him. So the idea of that is to represent the things that you want. So he'd bring food to represent us always having food. He might have a glass of whiskey or something. And I'm sure that he used to bring a lump of coal as well. I might have that wrong, but I'm sure that he would carry a lump of coal in. And that would have been from our barbecue in the summer, because we didn't have fires, open fires. We wouldn't have had coal for a coal fire. That would have been from a bag from having barbecues. But the point is, it's symbolic. So yeah, he would come in bearing gifts to represent, bringing those things, that prosperity into our household. And as you step over the threshold, you are supposed to say a happy new year and good tidings to you and yours, something of that effect. So you could write this tradition into your life. You don't need to use those words. You could pick something that's more appropriate for you and find a tall, dark, and hopefully handsome stranger to walk in through your front door. Obviously, later on in January, we have wassailing. That is another New Year's tradition. That happens on the 12th of January, or sometimes the 17th, which it's known as Old 12e, because at some point the calendar changed, didn't it? So it used to be the 12th, and then it was the 17th. But I have seen wassailing events either or those dates, or around them if they're done at the weekend. So yeah, wassailing is something to put into your calendar for January. Perhaps see if there is a wassailing in your area. But traditionally these things go on in all the sort of famous apple growing regions of the UK. So that would be Somerset, parts of the West Country, Kent, and to a degree some places up in the Midlands. We have wassailing here in the orchards here. So yeah, so those are just some things that you could do to celebrate. Remember that the wheel of the year is turning all year round. So, if there is something you want to celebrate, do it. You don't have to use these set dates, these set pagan festivals, and some of them move. Obviously, some of them are movable feasts. Some people have a set date for yours. So some people celebrate on the 21st. The Winter Solstice actually happens on the 22nd. Some will do the 21st and not the 22nd. Some will do the 22nd and not the 21st. I'm one of those. I pick a moving date. But it really, really varies. And you don't have to celebrate on that set date if you can't. We have lives, we have families, we have children, we have commitments and things we need to do. So, Wednesday night we had our Yule dinner with our friends, because we're not going to see them on the winter solstice. We won't see them at Christmas. So we had an early Yule/Christmas celebration and a roast with all the trimmings. So we did our own thing. And it's really, really important that you guys do that too, and not get too hung up on what you should or shouldn't do, because that takes all the fun and all the enjoyment out of it. And the point is celebration, honour, celebrate, worship, observe, don't get hung up on stuff. And for me, November was a blur. most of the end of November and the beginning of December has been cancelled due to catching COVID. So I am trying to find my joy where I can, and celebrate where I can, and make up for the things that I didn't manage to do. So create your own traditions, be alive, be here in this moment, and just celebrate, and take time to intentionally do things, and that in itself will make you feel festive. Pull ideas from others, collect ideas, write things down throughout the year, research, whatever, but make sure that you make it your own to suit your family, your needs, and your way of life. That's the most important thing, really. My last topic of all, I want to dedicate this episode to my beautiful godmother Sally, who I heard had passed over in the week. So Sally had become very ill. She was diagnosed with cancer in August. She didn't tell anyone because she didn't want to upset anyone, and unfortunately when it was discovered, it was too far gone. There was absolutely nothing that she could do, and so she died 3 months later. So I just want to dedicate this to her. We were very, very close. She was my mum's friend from when they were young, and they were a dental hygienist and a dental nurse, and they used to work together, but moreover they were friends. And I was born, and Sally was my godmother, and she was very, very spiritual. She followed White Eagle, so she believed in ancient wisdom for modern life, and she believed in following a path of love, service, and inner peace. And she believed that the soul travels over many, many lifetimes and goes from being in a physical body to eventually a solar or celestial one. So she was a wonderful, wonderful woman. We were very close. Like I said, I used to work for her and her husband, and we used to socialise a lot. I used to stay at her house a lot, and she was there from the moment I was born right up to an adult, and she used to make me feel like she was always proud of me, no matter what I did, no matter my failures, no matter the things that I got wrong, no matter me being a little bit of a wild child at times when I was younger and not having it quite sort of all figured out, and perhaps still being quite a selfish person. She just loved me no matter what, and made me feel like there was someone out there in the world who had my back and who was proud of me. And she was just an absolutely fabulous human being who was a lot of fun. She had a great sense of humour. For someone who was quite posh, I would say she was quite almost sort of like jolly hockey sticks, but she had an absolutely wicked sense of humour and enjoyed just the silliest humour and comedy. Father Ted was one of her favourite programmes, and I don't remember it, but I remember the stories of her and my mum going to see Airplane at the cinema, and they just cracked up the whole way through. They giggled the whole way through, and she was just absolutely brilliant. And I wish I'd known she was poorly. I totally understand why she didn't tell anyone, because that was typical Sally, and I just wish that I'd had a chance to say goodbye. And I find myself dealing with this because, as well as knowing that apparently she didn't appear to be in much pain, she was very well looked after. She had her final months at home before going into a hospice in her last week, where she was taken very great care of. But she was cheerful and positive to the end. And I just know that that obviously really, really helps me from becoming too upset. But I know that she had such a great faith, and she was so spiritual, and she'd had some really, really spiritual experiences when her father-in-law had died, who she'd taken care of, and she'd relayed these stories to me at the time, that I feel confident that she's out there in the sun and in the trees and the bushes and in the wind and in the sunshine and the flowers and all the beautiful things. Energy, it doesn't go anywhere, it just sort of transmutes into something else. And I kind of feel like if there is a way to get a message to me, I think she will. And I just feel very, very comforted in the knowledge that she was very spiritual and seemed to accept her fate and was just cheerful and positive to the end and thinking about everybody else, which was typical of our Sally Ann. So it's time to do some cards now. I have chatted on for long enough now. you really get out of the habit of doing these videos when you don't do them for a while, especially when your brain doesn't work very well like me. So I've mentioned this before, but I feel like I've done quite a good job today, considering I'm still not firing on all cylinders. So let's pick some cards for the energy, to see what the energy's like for the week ahead. So this just gives you an idea of things that might come up, or ways in which you can handle things if they do. It's just some food for thought for the week ahead. Okay, so we've got 4 cards today. We've got the High Priestess, we've got Justice, we've got the King of Cups, and we've got the 2 of Wands. And I almost feel like this is a message from Sally. This feels like advice that she would very much follow herself and probably give out to others. So starting off, we've got the High Priestess, which is all about the connecting to that like inner voice, that higher voice, that intuition, that sort of inner knowing, that inner knowing that we get, yes, we get from experience as we travel through life, but we've also got sort of like deep within us as an innate thing, something that we have to learn to tap into sometimes. Some of us are very sort of naturally able to do that, and we're just very in tune with our intuition and always have been. But if I think of Sally and I think of, you know, asking her for advice or telling her about a situation, I can't necessarily think of any examples and times where she did this, but knowing Sally as I do, she would say to you to listen to your intuition. You know, if you've got a problem or a situation where you need a solution and you're not sure what to do, that would be her first sort of port of call. So it's about tapping into that sort of feminine side of ourselves almost, and that's regardless of what gender you are. But with that feminine sort of receptive energy, we have, you know, that deep sort of inner knowing that runs sort of in all of us, whether we've taken time to notice that or not, whether we're connected into that or not. So yeah, for any events and issues and struggles, and or even, you know, nice things that you're weighing up, my advice for this week would be listen to your intuition. And then we have the Justice card come up. So as a result of, you know, this sort of situation and looking at this, you know, things tend to work out the way that they should. They tend to, you know, justice is always served. I think karma tends to, you know, catch up with people. And I really hope so, you know, thinking over the last few weeks, months, years, I really hope that, you know, that is true. And this card is definitely a message that, you know, if you are seeking justice or you're dealing with something that involves justice, or maybe a legal situation or matter, that justice will be served. You know, whether that takes a little time or a lot of time, you know, you'll get that there in the end. It's also a nod to ask yourself if you're acting in your highest good. So, you know, and that, you know, if you are, then you don't need to worry about any consequences of any sort. But again, I would say this ties in with this card in that, you know, listen to your highest good, listen to your higher voice, inner voice, and act in that way. Act for the highest good. That's what I was trying to say. Then we have King of Cups, who is a reminder to, you know, kind of get the balance right of being tapped into your emotions and acting and listening and feeling with those emotions, but also being mature, you know, to go with the flow and to allow it all to run around you, you know, but to act in a mature way. So again, that would be very Sally Ann, very, very sensible, very pragmatic, uniting the head and the heart, using your intuition, using your brains, and also, you know, feeling what's going on in here. And I feel like the 2 of Wands here is just a little reminder that, you know, we have the world in our hands, that, you know, the world is your oyster, and you can make absolutely anything of any situation. You can make anything of the cards you've been given, and you can make anything of any situation that you're in when you tap into, you know, these skills and these gifts, and that ultimately, you know, everything works out okay. I feel like this is a very positive hand of cards. It's very much sending us in a, you know, a direction of, you know, actively, proactively, you know, taking certain courses of action, you know, listening to your intuition, believing there'll be justice, being mature, letting emotions flow, but also having a grip on them, and just knowing that everything will work out okay, and the world is yours to look out upon, and to make life your own, and to make things what you want them to be. So yeah, on that, as per usual, I wish you a lovely, lovely week. Thank you so much for being here and for watching. I'm sorry this was a long one this time. Obviously, there was a lot to make up for not being here recently. So I'm wishing you a wonderful, wonderful week. I will be back, hopefully. I'm not planning on taking any more breaks, but it has been a bit of a rocky ride after COVID. I'm just hoping I don't catch any more bugs for a while, but I will be back next week on the 15th of December. So until then, I'm wishing you lots of love. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll see you soon. Okay, take care. Goodbye.